Nintendo just dropped a bombshell. The biggest announcement, I think, of this entire year is a remake of the highest rated, one of the most beloved games of all time, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I was obsessed with this game growing up. Honestly, it's one of my first memories in life. My consciousness was awakened by looking at the graphics on the screen of Legend of Zelda and feeling like it was this surreal, like, this is what life is. So, to me, it is a really big deal that Nintendo just really gets this right, that they really nail this, because I think it would break my soul if this game wasn't just incredible, which I have no doubts about. Anytime Nintendo has ever put any modicum of effort into making a Zelda game, it has been groundbreaking, incredible. They've never made a bad Zelda game, except for Triforce Heroes maybe, but that doesn't really count. That was a 3DS, like, whatever, it doesn't count, okay? Anyways, this is kind of like my dream scenario of what I want to see from Ocarina of Time's remake. Just things that I think will make it even better than it already has potential to be. Yeah, this is in no particular order, but let's begin. So first thing I think would make this game unforgettable to an entire new generation of people is a vast world to explore. I've been replaying Ocarina of Time lately, as I often do, probably once a year, and the world is pretty small. If you go across Hyrule Field, you can get across it in maybe 3 minutes of gameplay. I used to think it takes forever to get across because as a kid you don't have access to warping or the horse, Epona yet. But it takes like 3 minutes maybe to get across. I haven't really clocked it, but it is so short. And that's the entire open world. That's the entirety of Hyrule as it stands. You start from Kokiri Forest, you can go all the way to Hyrule Castle. There's also Kakariko Village, Zora's Domain, and Lake Hylia, and Gerudo Valley. All of those things are so close together that it almost feels small. And that's because it is. If you walk from one part of the map, like the very edge of the entire map, to the other, which I think would be from Link's house or the Lost Woods all the way to Death Mountain, if you didn't take the shortcuts, again, it's probably taking you 8 minutes of game time. What I want to see in this new Ocarina of Time, I don't want to see 8 minutes of game time. I want to make it take, forever. I want it to be as big as Breath of the Wild, if not, maybe not that big. That's a little bit huge and would feel a little bit inauthentic to the game. But something huge, large, with multiple interactable NPCs, just an entire lived-in world that feels like authentic to Ocarina of Time. I want Kakariko Village doesn't even need to be bigger, it just needs to kind of have a little bit more going on around the area, because the only thing that is around there is Kakariko Village, which this is not a post-apocalyptic Hyrule, this is a pre-apocalyptic Hyrule in the child timeline, and then in the adult timeline it becomes post-apocalyptic. But there should be so much more around Hyrule than just, hey, here's Kakariko Village, 10 feet away from Hyrule Castle. So that's one of the main things I really want to see here, is just a big, vast world to explore. And with Eiji Aonuma's promise that they are going to be doing open air from now on for Zelda games, maybe this is going to be that open air Ocarina of Time that I've dreamed about since I first saw Skyrim or other big games like that. Now that aside, we gotta look at the graphics of the game. Now, the second point that I want to make is that despite how good the graphics are already looking, despite how kind of realistic they're going with this art style, I really need them to keep it weird. Zelda is a very weird franchise. You look back throughout the entire history of this franchise and you will see just weirdness everywhere, from the events that happen to the character designs. I'm not even just talking about Tingle. I'm talking about Twilight Princess, the most realistic looking of all the Zelda games, has some of the most bizarre character designs I've ever seen. And it's better for it. It gives Zelda this unique identity that just isn't replicated. You see a character in a Zelda game and you know they're from a Zelda game. You're not looking at it and thinking, oh, that's realistic, but it might be Skyrim or it might be Call of Duty. No. No, you know where it's from. It's from Zelda. Nobody else would ever think of this crackpot design right here, even in Twilight Princess, the most realistic game in the franchise. It's just not going to happen. And in order for Ocarina of Time to keep its identity, it needs to be just as weird as it always was way back in the day when you had these weird-looking carpenters that just walk around doing nothing, or this weird cuckoo chicken owner who is allergic to cuckoos. Why would you even choose that as a profession? Or this weird guy in a windmill playing a song repeatedly for 7 years just because he heard it once and it broke the windmill. It just needs to be weird. In order for it to be Zelda, it just needs to keep being weird despite going for it, updated graphics and everything like that. That's all. It's a weird game, and I love it for it. One of the biggest concerns I have with Zelda as a franchise that was given to me by Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is dungeon design. See, the dungeon design in those two games, apart from the shrines are great, but the actual 4 major dungeons in each game are pretty weak. Probably the weakest dungeons in the entire franchise. It's not that they're easy to solve. Sometimes the puzzles are pretty difficult, but nothing really feels that unique about these two. In particular, you don't fondly remember discovering the puzzles that allowed you to get through the dungeon. A lot of times you're just kind of cheesing your way through or figuring out a unique way, and not that there's anything wrong with having different ways to get through the dungeon. That's fine. It's just that sometimes it feels like you're skipping or making the wrong decision, or even just compare it to Donkey Kong Bonanza, where half the bananas I found were just kind of buried in the ground, where I thought there was probably a set way I was supposed to find this, but I only found it because I'm just wantonly destroying everything, and it doesn't feel as satisfying to find because you didn't solve anything, you didn't figure something out, you just used the send to break through the floor, and then there you are, instead of actually figuring it out. So the dungeons in Echoes of Wisdom, which is the most recent Zelda title to date right now, kind of prove that the Zelda team still knows what they're doing. They still know how to make dungeons. Even the shrines in both of those games prove that they know how to make dungeons. But I want the dungeons in Ocarina of Time's remake to feel, similar to how they did in the original game. You progress your way through each dungeon, through trials, combat, etc., until you reach the final boss by finding the boss key and everything like that. The dungeons shouldn't be the same as they used to be, obviously, because I don't want to play a game and just know exactly where I'm going. Again, I've played this game more than any other game I've ever played, so obviously it would be very, oh, cool, I already know how to get through here. I need them to be different, but I also don't want them to follow the example that was set by Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. They need to follow the example that was set by every game before. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. The dungeons in those games are all phenomenal. There's standouts, obviously, Stone Tower Temple, Great Basin. There's so many good examples of dungeons to choose from, and Ocarina of Time's remake needs to take inspiration from the old style, but with a little of the new open-air formula mixed in. It wouldn't be the worst thing if you can kind of get through the dungeon in any order, but it needs to feel like a classic Zelda dungeon. I can't just skip puzzles. I actually have to figure them out, through the, grinding of my teeth and pondering for hours of, what do I do here? Or, local word of mouth. I don't know how to get through the water temple. Did you try checking under the platform that raises when you raise the water? There's your missing key right there. Just something. Oh, and the water temple. That's going to be amazing to see an entire new generation just freak out over. I can't wait. So probably one of the other important aspects of this whole remake, it needs to stick to the same story that Ocarina of Time already has. That's been kind of an issue with big remakes in the past. They try to modernize the way that the story is told a little bit too much. I mean, look at Final Fantasy VII's remake. I don't really understand what's going there or why they decided to do it this way. I mean, I know it's kind of canon to the Final Fantasy VII lore, so they're keeping both stories canon to each other, but in kind of alternate live stream universes. It's very strange the way that they've decided to do the Final Fantasy VII remake, but it's not, terrible. I don't hate Final Fantasy VII's remake, but with Ocarina of Time, it should be the same story as it always was. Obviously, with more expansion on everything. So we don't need to know what Darunia's favorite place to, sleep is. I don't care if he likes to sleep on the peak of Death Mountain surrounded by lava. Although that would be really cool. But, get more of his relationship with the royal family, or get more of his love for the forest people. Give us, reasons why he knows Saria's song and is just so fascinated by it, loves it so much. Give us a reason why the Lost Woods and Death Mountain have a connection. Just more lore in general would be appreciated, while keeping to the same actual story that's told here, just expanding on things that, have been theorized for years but have never had an answer to. Just go on Zeltek's channel. There's, hours of footage there of Ocarina of Time lore that is speculated at but never confirmed, and, obviously keep some mystery here. Add some more mystery here. I would love to see just everything come to fruition on how things work in Ocarina of Time's world. But the story needs to still be that hero's journey that Link takes from the Deku Tree all the way to fighting Ganondorf in the tower to rescue the princess. Everything else, expand what you can. Give us more rich lore on the Skulltula house, how they ever got cursed in the first place, who cursed them, and give me 500 gold Skulltula tokens to find, because that's apparently the thing now in Zelda games. I don't even care. I would look for every single one of them. I found every Korok seed in Breath of the Wild, and I'm gonna do the same in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm gonna find all these gold Skulltulas in Ocarina of Time. But just give us more of the juice. So that's really all that they should do with the story and lore. Just expand on it, but don't change it. We don't need to see anything like a live stream that's affecting the current results of reality. Nothing like that needs to happen for Zelda. Nothing like that needed to happen for Final Fantasy. But that's just where we are right now. And that's what it needs to be. It just needs to be the same story. And lastly, one of the major complaints that some people across the internet that I don't agree with have had about Ocarina of Time is that a lot of it is really slow. And like the original game, a lot of it is really slow. Like, you wait a lot for things to happen. You have to wait for openings and enemy attacks. You have to wait for a boat to sail across. You have to wait for the Zora King. If that's changed, the Zora King needs to, if anything, he should be even slower. I don't even care. But a lot of complaints that, again, I don't really agree with, but I do see where they're coming from, is that there's too much waiting in the original Ocarina of Time. There's waiting for openings on enemy attacks. There's waiting for, again, the boat to sail through the fog. There's just a lot that, it makes you a passive player rather than an active player. So if there's a little bit more to do with ways to get the enemies to interact with you more, so let's update this gameplay to feel more interactive. Like in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they did a great job of making it so that your enemy fighting is really, really fast. Like, you can really get through a Lionel in some ways faster than some of the mini bosses in Ocarina of Time, which I think is ridiculous considering how much health a Lionel has compared to the bosses in Ocarina of Time. So just a bit more interaction from the player in regards to how the combat feels. I mean, I really am a big fan of how Twilight Princess does their combat with all the, the secret arts and techniques. So if they took like the combat of Twilight Princess, but like combined it with the speed of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that would probably be your best bet for the best feeling combat in a Zelda game. Something that just feels more interactive rather than passively waiting for an opening. But other than that, I really do think that Nintendo's going to make good on this promise. I don't see any reason to doubt Ocarina of Time remake at all. It's going to be incredible, phenomenal, and I genuinely can't wait for it. So, if you disagree with me, leave a comment below. Tell me how stupid and wrong I am and how I don't know anything about Zelda, and I'll gladly debate you in the comments or in a follow-up video. I don't really care. I just want this channel to be a lot more interactive with anyone engaging with it, and I want people to, just have a good time here. And yeah, it's been a little bit it's been a while since I actually recorded anything for this channel. For the most part, because I lost a lot of motivation. I felt like I was kind of creating slop, just content for the sake of making content instead of talking about what I was passionate about. So that's kind of why I made this video today, is because I just wanted to start making content again about things that I actually care about, things that I feel like I know a lot about, and things that I want to see and influence in the industry as a whole. So that's pretty much what the channel is going to be from now on. It's just me talking about video games, mostly Zelda, of course, and anything else that kind of catches my attention for whatever it is that I want to go over. So that's basically what this channel is going to be about now, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. And hopefully, if you like my content, you can subscribe to it and just kind of get involved with what I'm trying to do here, which is just talk about video games, Zelda lore, Zelda everything. Clearly, look at me, look at my background. It's pretty evident that I am a big fan of the Legend of Zelda franchise, and just want to talk about that among other Nintendo franchises like Fire Emblem, Pokemon, whatever catches my attention at the time. I'm just going to talk about whatever it is, and instead of making slop, it's just going to be what I think and hope is just good content. So that's what it's going to be from now on. Thanks for listening to my rant, and have a great day.